Story 1. I would simply pass away. No funeral is needed. Just toss me in the trash with the coffee grounds that no longer exist. Story 2. If I woke up tomorrow and they told me there was no more coffee in the world, I would probably just go back to bed and hope it was all a bad dream. Story 3. You would see me on the news. Without coffee, I can't even come up with a metaphor. I would tear this whole place down piece by piece with my bare hands. Story 4. It would be disappointing, but I would search for something else to provide my caffeine boost, like tea or something similar. If caffeine were no longer available, I would contact my former supplier and engage in an alternative to get my fix. Story 5. It is concerning how dependent some people are on it. It would likely be better for everyone's health if it were to disappear. Story 6. I don't drink coffee, but many animal species, such as birds, bats, and insects, rely on coffee plants for food. It would be unfortunate if they lost this food source. Story 7. I would be happy, but then again coffee enthusiasts would probably find something else to adore in a similarly annoying manner. Story 8. Great. I can enjoy my Red Bull in peace without the coffee enthusiasts complaining about all the sugar in it while they are on their 8th cup of coffee for the day. Story 9. I think I would be okay. I find coffee to be more of an activity rather than something I need to do. It is more of a habit than a necessity. Story 10. I would be fine except all the people would have a very bad rest of their days, which would make my life miserable. Story 11. I don't drink coffee, but oddly, it is my favorite flavor of ice cream. So I guess raspberry chocolate would be my #1 choice if coffee were no longer available. Story 12. There is still tea. I will willingly take either of those two if it's on offer. I think deep down I prefer a good old cup of tea, and I am only drinking more coffee because my university has 2 on-campus coffee houses, and frankly, I don't trust them with a quality cup. Story 13. My life wouldn't change directly because I don't drink coffee, but I imagine all the people around me who do will suddenly become much more difficult to deal with for a few weeks. Story 14. I would shrug my shoulders and boil a pot of water for tea, or I would add a caffeinated drink mix to my water. Story 15. It wouldn't bother me too much. I'm pretty caffeine resistant, so I don't use it as a pick-me-up since it doesn't work. However, I still drink it on the weekends as a relaxing start to a lazy Saturday or Sunday. I do enjoy the taste of good coffee, so I would miss that. Story 16. I'd be okay. I recently switched to caffeinated beverage mix. I was a huge coffee fan for 25 years, but the chemotherapy I'm undergoing made coffee taste unpleasant. Story 17. It would be a slightly hard week, but we would get through it. You didn't mention that mushroom coffee was gone, so I can just switch to that full-time. Story 18. Coffee makes me sleepy, so it wouldn't directly affect me. However, there would be many grumpy people in the world, which would be unfortunate. Story 19. I would be concerned that the price of my tea was about to rise significantly when all those people switch from coffee to tea. Story 20. I wouldn't care. However, I am in the process of quitting nicotine, and my wife, who is a nurse and a coffee enthusiast, so I would start preparing for the potential divorce. Story 21. I drink coffee, but I dislike it, and to me, it tastes unpleasant. There are other sources of caffeine that are satisfactory. Story 22. I run a bakery and cafe, and I serve a lot of coffee. I also drink a lot of coffee. Currently, the 2025 harvest is facing challenges based on what producers and roasters are sharing. I might have to take action. Coffee is magical. Story 23. I occasionally think I would not miss it. At worst, every once in a while, I think it would be nice to have a cup of coffee. Story 24. I seriously dislike coffee. As I grew up, I was told that when you get to college, you will like it. Then, when you get a real job, and later when you have a family, it's the same story. If there were no more coffee, I would still wake up every day without caffeine and express my frustration in the mornings. It's tough for coffee addicts. Join me in disliking mornings as well. You don't need coffee to dislike them. Story 25. Personally, I wouldn't care, but I would be curious to see what happens to the abundance of coffee places where I live. Story 26. Happy. I don't drink coffee. I hope it is a caffeine shortage so my soda addiction can be stopped as well. Story 27. Loving the mixed energy across the spectrum of, I don't drink it, to hide your wife and kids, because it's about to get violent, in the comments. Truly entertaining. Story 28. Coffee or caffeine? Naturally, caffeine also comes from tea. I don't think it would have too much of an effect. Story 29. I suppose moving forward, my breakfast will consist of an omelette, a croissant with fresh preserves, and a 1-liter mug of diet soda. Alternatively, I might add a caffeine pill to my daily multivitamin. I certainly know that I will not be drinking tea. Story 30. My body would feel euphoric. I trade comfort for the taste of anxiety-inducing caffeine. Cappuccinos taste like hot chocolate, and coffee with sugar or cream tastes bitter. Naturally, I choose the latte with espresso route so I can give myself a semi-heart attack every morning. It surely wakes me up. Story 31. I keep a supply of caffeine mints just for this possibility. I would still miss my morning coffee terribly and feel depressed for a while. Story 32. I think I am addicted to coffee. I would buy soda or prescription medications and try to create a plan to come off stimulants. Story 33. Be really sad and switch to other sources of caffeine. If all caffeine goes, I would want to be put in a coma until the withdrawal from 15 years of daily coffee passes. Story 34. Honestly, at this point in my life, I throw my hands up in the air, accept that it is what it is, and find an alternative to live with. Mostly, I would prefer not to experience the headaches until my body gets used to being without. Story 35. The world is doomed, and I will not participate in any ritual, like work or breathing from this point. I know it sounds like a child's tantrum, but what else is there to live for when the morning coffee is not present? Story 36. I'm pretty sure the accumulated sleep debt of years will collide with caffeine withdrawal, and I'll be in trouble. Story 37. I would be disappointed. I love coffee. It doesn't really wake me up anymore. I just love the taste. I would be okay, but that would be unfortunate. I would definitely transition to more tea. Story 38. It wouldn't affect my personal life at all. I have never drank coffee and never will. In my work life, it will be great. We have several food stands, and our Starbucks is by far my least favorite of them. It is a messy stand that uses many different items that need to be inventoried and rotated. Story 39. I really enjoy a cup every morning, so I don't think I would be very happy without it. I don't need to have it, but I do enjoy it. Story 40. I wouldn't care. I like coffee, but I'm not a caffeine addict. I could go days without drinking caffeine, and at that point, I just miss the taste more than the stimulation. If you woke up tomorrow and said nicotine is no longer in the world, I'd have a panic attack. I need my mornings Zinneroni. Story 41. I will be out of commission for about a week due to a massive headache caused by 2 to 4 shots of espresso every day, depending on my mood. Story 42. I would buy stock in the companies that produce Tylenol and ibuprofen, as there would be a lot of migraine headaches and more developing from the painful caffeine withdrawal others would experience. This would be a quick buy, followed by a sell once the withdrawal symptoms end, typically in 2 to 3 days. However, until then, Story 43. Personally, I wouldn't notice a difference. I don't like coffee and don't drink it. However, I do have questions about how other people would handle it and if that would impact my life. Story 44. Quite literally, it is the only happy thing I have consistently each day. I would probably just give up on life. Story 45. I have drank 1 cup of coffee in the last year, maybe around 20 in my whole life. It would literally change nothing in my life. Story 46. That will happen due to climate change. Both coffee and chocolate will become luxuries over time. Story 47. I would shrug, take a sip of my tea, and brace myself for the chaos of people who will be prone to losing their temper for the next 2 months. I would also likely stock up on tea since I know many coffee enthusiasts would try to use it as a substitute. Story 48. It wouldn't change anything for me. Coffee is alright, but I have never been into it enough for it to matter. I have some instant coffee in the cupboard that my girlfriend drinks. That's about it. Story 49. As someone who does not drink coffee, I would be slightly confused as to why anyone told me specifically. Story 50. I assume Elon Musk decided that coffee was subversive and banned it, since he apparently runs the country now. Story 51. I would feel emptiness. I usually don't drink coffee or tea. It's actually a trick question that people who know me ask those who don't. When someone mentions my name in social circles I frequent, they ask how I take my coffee. Black with no sugar, with milk and no sugar, or with milk and 2 sugars. Those unfamiliar with me randomly choose an option. However, people who know me can inform them that it's a trick question because I don't drink coffee or tea. Story 52. Well, I say as I hop in my car, drive down to the Dollar General, and clear off the energy drink shelf. Story 53. I know myself. I'm sure my contract specifically states I must have the 4 C's. Cannabis, chocolate, coffee, and cigarettes. For the youth in the room, I am a bad example. Do not follow my lead. Don't use drugs, and smoking is harmful. Story 54. I always have Sanka instant coffee on hand like my grandmother. With 1 teaspoon and hot water a day, I'll be good for 10 years with the case I have stored away for emergencies, just like you are describing. Story 55. How is it that nobody said anything before now? I feel like someone should have at least mentioned it when we were down to the last 50 pounds or something. Story 56. I am not capable of being nice before I finish at least 1 cup of coffee in the morning, so my guess is it would eventually end in divorce. Story 57. I would be fine without it. This is not unprecedented. Look up chicory coffee. It may not taste great to me, but it works for some people. Story 58. I wouldn't feel anything. I'd just swallow a bottle of sleeping pills and call it a life. You might as well tell me there's no more sunlight. Story 59. Many people are addicted to coffee. I would run for the hills. I would be running and drinking. Story 60. I drink my cup out of habit. I don't actually need it. It has no effect on me, so I would find another routine. Story 61. I believe some disgruntled scientists will be motivated to create synthetic coffee, so we won't be without it for long. Story 62. I would be really confused, wondering how someone came in last night and cut up all my coffee plants. Story 63. Switch to something similar to get me going, but I will miss the different flavor profiles of regional coffee. I have tried yerba mate, and the wakefulness it invokes feels similar to coffee, I think. Story 64. I would be fine with it, but I also would not want to drive or be around other people for a week or so while they go through withdrawal. Story 65. I believe I would likely receive a promotion, as I would be the only functional employee at my workplace before 10 a.m. Story 66. I love tea and I am indifferent to coffee, so I would not be heartbroken. Even if tea were to go away, there are still many beverages to enjoy. Story 67. With no reference for coffee flavor, are all records of coffee erased? Is the concept of coffee itself erased? Our memories remain intact, but all other tangible traces are wiped? I think of the farmers and then consider what hot drinks I like best as my new go-to. As it stands, spring water and coffee are the only 2 drinks that frequently pass my lips. Herbal teas are a complete mix, while green tea has an odd impact on my stomach. Story 68. That's okay. I don't want to have heart issues and depend on something like that. Maybe that means the government is trying to make this world healthier. Story 69. Reports are coming in this morning nationwide of riots in supermarkets and coffee shops. Multiple incidents of road rage, domestic violence, and homicides. Police say they are helpless, and governors in many places have called in the National Guard. Story 70. I don't drink coffee, so it wouldn't affect me, but it would be very unfortunate for the countries that export coffee because they may encounter difficulties. Story 71. Well, no more in the world would mean I better find an alternative, like maybe adjusting to a strong cup of tea or going off caffeine altogether. I'm thinking that if I could give up cigarettes after decades of addiction, quit cold turkey, and live well without them, I trust one could learn to live without anything. Story 72. I wouldn't care at all. I stopped drinking coffee, and 95% of my irritable bowel syndrome symptoms went away. I was always more of a tea drinker, though I liked coffee just fine. Honestly, I don't even miss it. Story 73. What if the United States had shut down codes to prevent NATO from using American weapons against Russia, similar to how they restricted Ukraine from using US weapons against Russia for a period? Story 74. Doctors took my coffee 15 years ago, and I'm still mad about it. I enjoy making my mother's coffee and bringing it to her so I can at least smell it. She lets me because walking is hard for her now. That being said, if they took my mother's coffee, I would hide in my room for a month. She has a mug that says, "I love you more than coffee, but maybe not before coffee," and it suits her. You do not want to get between her and that first cup. Story 75. I do not drink coffee, so it would not affect me. However, for some people with an unhealthy addiction, it might do them good in the long run, aside from the unpleasant withdrawal symptoms. Story 76. I'm good for a while. Once the rumored tariffs with Colombia were a thing, I stocked up. When my stash runs out, I'll be down for a week or two due to caffeine withdrawal and other issues. Story 77. I definitely enjoy coffee first thing in the morning. I would probably just eat more chocolate cake since it goes so well with the tea I would be drinking. Story 78. Can anyone say Mountain Dew? It's loaded with caffeine, along with Coca-Cola and Pepsi. There are many ways to get our caffeine. Story 79. Buy all of that Dunkin' real estate for a fraction of the cost. Unless they change their business model to Munchkin. Story 80. I would go and make myself a cup of orange juice with my bacon and eggs, just like I do every morning. Story 81. I love coffee and buy it from a local roaster. When I wake up at home, I am excited about my first cup, and that motivates me to get out of bed. If someone told me that, I would be very upset. Story 82. I would be sourcing guarana and any other stimulant as a substitute. It's my only way of not eating all day. Story 83. It won't make a difference for me personally. I refuse to drink coffee or energy drinks. Animals in the wild don't need them, and I shouldn't either. Story 84. I would feel physically ill with a headache and nausea. I know this because I've had to undergo laboratory tests during which I couldn't drink coffee, and it is unpleasant. Story 85. Not a thing would change for me. I really like the smell of coffee, but it has never been a flavor that I want a cup of. I wish I liked some simple coffee combination, but nothing resonates with my taste buds. Story 86. I have never consumed coffee, as I think it smells and tastes unpleasant. However, I am concerned that Starbucks might go out of business quickly, so I would hurry to use my gift card balances on hot chocolate and croissants. Story 87. I love coffee, but I would be fine. After a few days, the new normal would be established, and life would continue as usual. Story 88. I would be disappointed, but I have been enjoying English breakfast tea more and more over the past few months. It is not the end of the world. Story 89. I didn't start drinking coffee until the pandemic because the only place I had to go for 2 months was the local coffee shop. I started with vanilla lattes, and within a year I was taking triple espressos. Now I have an espresso bar at home. I don't even really need caffeine. I'm fine without it. I just enjoy the art of it. I should quit, though, because it's just another expense. Story 90. I'm sitting on weight, just in case. Coffee is one of those things I cannot live without. I load up when it's cheap because you never know. We're at an all-time high right now, but who knows how high it can go. The Earth is only getting hotter and less climate stable. A couple of bad harvests and we're at $25 per pound. Coffee has a wild historical background. In the 1970s, a coffee shortage put significant strain on the German Democratic Republic. It was the first major blow that would tap their currency reserves and cause them to lack enough foreign cash to participate in the oil markets. They panicked and started dealing weapons to Africa in an attempt to boost their foreign currency reserves because they exhausted it all importing coffee. It was a crisis. That crisis was the first domino that led to their eventual failure. Story 91. I am much more concerned about individuals struggling with substance addiction who do not recognize their condition. It does not significantly impact me, Story 92. I gave up coffee 2 months ago and feel better for it. I was a serious coffee drinker, consuming up to 7 cups a day. The withdrawal was not easy and reminded me why I shouldn't partake. Story 93. Claim I would harm myself, then probably switch to something like green tea or a mushroom coffee substitute. Story 94. Caffeine addiction lasts about 48 hours, though it's shorter for me because I have a different constitution. I tend to be grumpy until lunchtime. Story 95. It can be challenging at first, but by the second day, I feel completely normal again when I stop drinking caffeine. Story 96. Asking this only increases the anxiety. I am addicted, so even imagining this amazing beverage disappearing will shake me to my very core. Story 97. I would be glad. Caffeine and alcohol are the most socially accepted addictions, despite the fact that they cause significant harm. Smoking and vaping are also prominent. Story 98. Guess I will go find the nearest electric fence. A zap from one of those works just as well as coffee. Story 99. I mainly drink tea, so it wouldn't affect me much, but it would be a disappointment. I have many friends who would consider it a catastrophe comparable to a nuclear war. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.